What if I told you that the hottest place to invest in the entire Asia-Pacific region right now isn't China? It isn't Singapore or Japan either. It's India. Yeah, a huge shift is happening. And it's basically redrawing the investment map of Asia right before our eyes. So, what's behind it all? Let's dive in and break it down.
For years, for decades, the answer to this question was pretty much a no-brainer, right? The big money flowed along these really well-worn paths. But what if I told you that the smart money, we're talking about the big private market funds, is now charting a completely new course to a place that might actually surprise you?
Yup, the answer, in just one word, is India. And listen, this isn't by some tiny little margin. A brand new survey is showing this massive, really decisive wave of investor confidence that has catapulted India right to the top of the list for private investment.
And look, we're not just talking about a slight edge here. What we're seeing is a major realignment of capital. It's so significant that India is now wearing the region's investment crown. At least, that's according to some very, very influential folks whose entire job is to place billion-dollar bets on what the future looks like.
Now, what's really important here is the source. This isn't just someone's opinion or a bit of speculation. This comes straight from a recent survey by McKinsey & Company, and they talked to the limited partners. Think of them as the big players, the institutions and high net worth individuals who actually supply the cash for these huge private investments. And what they had to say? Well, it was pretty eye-opening.
All right, so let's get into the actual numbers, because this is where the story gets really, really compelling. These figures, they just show you how deep this change in attitude actually goes.
First up, look at this, 31%. Just let that sink in for a second. Out of all the powerful, dynamic economies in the Asia-Pacific, nearly 1/3 of major private market investors are now putting India as their #1 absolute top choice.
And if we zoom out just a little bit, the number gets even more incredible. A full 76%, that's more than 3 out of every 4 investors, they place India in their top 3 choices. This has gone way beyond a niche interest. This is a full-blown mainstream conviction.
And here it is. This is the source of all that data. So this isn't just talk. This is a headline-grabbing discovery from one of the most respected firms in the world, and it's driving conversations in boardrooms everywhere.
So, naturally, the big question is, why, right? What is fueling this incredible wave of confidence in India, especially right now? Well, it's not just one single thing. It's a really powerful mix of factors all coming together at once.
Okay, so the survey points to 3 main reasons, but let's unpack what they actually mean. First, there's economic growth. We're talking about one of the fastest growing major economies on the entire planet. That provides this huge tailwind that's just impossible to ignore. Second is stability. In a pretty turbulent world, investors are seeing more and more policy consistency and reforms in India, which makes it feel like a much safer place to make those long-term bets. And third, and this is the big one, is that long-term potential. This is being driven by 2 massive forces, demographics and digitization. You've got this huge, young, ambitious population, which means you have decades of consumption and a growing workforce ahead. And at the exact same time, you've got this digital revolution, everything from mobile payments to a crazy booming startup scene, and it's unlocking incredible new opportunities. That's why you see all this private equity and venture capital money just pouring into sectors like tech, infrastructure, fintech, and manufacturing. India isn't just a developing market anymore, it's a scaling powerhouse.
But this is where the story gets even more interesting. You see, all of this isn't happening in a bubble. India's rise is happening at the very same time that the rest of the region is actually facing some pretty serious economic headwinds.
This slide really puts it all into perspective. Now, let's be real. It's not a perfect story. Of course not. India still has big challenges to tackle. Bureaucracy can be a headache, there are still infrastructure gaps, and inequality is a real issue. And yet, what this data clearly shows is that even with all those known issues, investor confidence is off the charts. While the wider Asia-Pacific region is hitting the brakes, investors aren't just holding their ground in India, they're actively increasing their investments, basically doubling down on the country's resilience and its future. So let's zoom out. What does all of this mean for the big picture? What are the long-term consequences of this really powerful trend?
When you see data this strong, and you see it combined with investors putting more skin in the game during a regional downturn, it really only tells you one thing. This isn't just some passing fad or a short-term trend. We're looking at something much, much more fundamental. What we are most likely seeing here is a deep structural shift in the way global capital flows around the world. Big investors are looking to diversify away from their traditional go-to markets, and India is emerging as a core, strategic, long-term bet. The old playbooks are being torn up and new ones are being written with India